we are back. If you have been watching, welcome back. If not, you'll probably want to watch the previous videos. So, last video, we ended with the last of the seven. And that was the last one. Then comes this long period of nobody. So, I want to try to. It was an interesting, painful period after the seven. But I've got some points that I want to share. I guess hopefully they'll be helpful to somebody. So right after number seven went away, I was very angry at God. I felt He had tricked me. I was so sure that number seven was supposed to be for me, and every day I'd open my Bible, or I did it so often that I knew it by heart. I could quote Bible passages back to God, verses that basically I put God on trial. I was like the prosecuting attorney. And God, you said this and this and this, and that meant this and this and this. And He let me do that for quite a while. And I think He was merciful to me after a while. And I think also maybe my tone, my heart changed a little bit to where I was like, okay, I thought you said this. What did you say? Anyway, so He finally did respond, but it took some time. Now, I've experienced God's responses via the Bible in many ways, in several ways, and here's some that I remember, and we'll get to a few of them, or examples, I guess, of what I mean. So number one is, I land on a passage that describes exactly how I'm feeling in the moment of my desperate need. And those are actually initially really good because you feel like, wow, you were crying out to this God that you can't see. You open your Bible and you land on this passage and it describes exactly what you're feeling. And that's like wonderful. It really helps. But it only helps so far. And then after a while, if you keep getting different versions of that, after a while, and that's all you get, you start to either, I start to either, were those just a coincidence? Or worse, does God care? And that could be part of the reason why I kept just landing on, first I go from no response to the same response all the time. And I guess God wanted to show me my heart and say, hey, look, you're doubting that I care. And instead of trusting me that I do care, because my word says I do care, even if you don't understand. All right. Or another way God has responded is I land on a passage that talks about how God cares and how these are general passages for anyone, but they happen, I happen to land on it when I needed it, I guess. And how God eventually will make things right, or He'll fix my life, or He'll rescue me from my plight. Again, initially, or at first, these passages are wonderful. They kept me going. But after too many times of those, they just don't help anymore either. And then it can land on something that gives more specific hope of a promise, but without being able to explain in any detail. It read more targeted to me instead of like a general, okay, God is with me, He's gonna fix it. It felt like this is more for me. And then sometimes, not all the time, very rarely, I think, I can land on something that explains. So remember, I was accusing God. I was saying that God had tricked me. Now that I've talked about different ways that God has responded to me in the Bible, here's where I finally got my first verse. Right here. The Bible, book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, ironically, verse 7 as well. Remember number 7? You deceived me, Lord, and I was deceived. You overpowered me and prevailed. I am ridiculed all day long. Everyone mocks me. The part that I remember really hitting me was, you deceived me, Lord, and I was deceived. And that felt good the first time I got that. And at least it was like God telling me, look, I get it, that you believe I deceived you. And later on, I would know that he didn't. But at least I got that much in the beginning. So then I thought, okay. Then I was willing to think, okay, if God did not deceive me, then where did I get it wrong? And I started praying about that original verse of the seven. I started reading this original verse with new eyes and praying over it. And here it is. I had brought this up in the beginning. In the Bible, book of Second Kings, chapter 5, verse 14, Naaman the leper. So he went down, dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, the 7 women. And his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Emphasis on young. I talked about all this. And I thought, could it be? I mean, obviously, it was after he came up out of the Jordan. Not when he was getting involved, dipped himself. It wasn't while he was involved with the seven. It's after he came up, after the 7th time that he came up. Then his skin was like that of a young boy. So then I started praying more specifically and saying, God, so if you're trying to tell me that it was never going to be just 7, then am I expecting somebody else to come onto the scene? Is there going to be a number 8? And at that point, because of all the things that I'd gone through and the bad mistake I made believing number 7 was for me, I definitely was not ready to start clinging to, okay, it's number 8. No, no, no. But I thought there might be a number 8. And, again, God's not going to tell me why. It is what it is. Unfortunately, I have lost track of the Bible passages, but I finally did get some indication that there would be a number 8 as well. Now, you may or may not be asking, like, there was a group right away of 7, and then this 8th person appears later. I want you to know that that 7 that came on the scene was a big deal to me because they happened literally one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, without a let up. I would literally be ending with number 1 when number 2 would show up, number 3, and so on and so on and so on. From start to finish, 1 through 7, no let up. It was crazy. It was like this emotional roller coaster ride, of which I never did anything or initiated anything. And then they stopped. So as clearly as they started as a group, they stopped as a group. And there was this long period of time of nobody. Now, during that time, like I said, I was starting to go dancing, and I just threw myself into dancing to help myself survive emotionally. If you recall from another video, number 7 ended conclusively the day that she called very nastily on my birthday in 2013, early spring 2013, and told me off, and that ended number 7. So now it's mid 2013, and I remember 3 distinct things that year that were all important. Number 1 is I began to notice these patterns, 818, 818, and it could occur just by me happening to look at a clock somewhere, a day, just so many different ways without me searching for this. In fact, it had been going on for quite some time before it began to register with me this. And so after some time, I started asking God, well, just want you to know that pattern has stayed with me from 2013 to mid 2021. years. It got to the point where first I quit asking God. Second, I just quit looking at this stuff. I would just, as soon as I saw it, I would ignore. I would purposely try to just mentally flush it, ignore it. It was so annoying, and I thought, I'm never going to be told what this is about, so forget it. But anyway, let's save that on the shelf mentally. And then I started to land on the following passage, which I have landed on more times, many, 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 many more times than any other passage. I think it's like 60 something plus times, and it has actually been true to the letter. And we'll know that later on. But I'm going to introduce the passage now because I started to get it in 2013, and I got it all the way through to almost the end of 2015, so 2 years, and then it stopped, and there's a reason. So here we go. The passage, the Bible, book of First Kings, chapter 1. When King David was very old, let's call me King David. Not that I'm a king, but it's just the way that I felt like God was referring to me to be able to use this passage. When he was old, even though I'm not old, I'm a lot older. Remember, the whole point of this video series is that God said, I'm going to introduce you to a young woman, much younger than you would think possible that you could be involved with. So that's where the I'm old comes in. And notice they say, let's look for a young virgin to serve the king and take care of him, and she can keep him warm and so on. And so they searched throughout Israel for a beautiful young woman and found someone, right? She took care of the king and waited on him, but the king had no sexual relations with her. Now, it took some time for them to find this young woman, just like it took time for what I will tell you about in the future to arrive to me. Since this video is again getting long, I'm going to stop right here, but I do want to introduce the third memorable thing or event or what have you that occurred in 2013, and that was I met this girl. This is not number 8. This is just a girl, not one of. She's only instrumental in because of what she helped me do, which was to help me find a place to teach dancing. But here's the key. This one I do want you to remember for future. It's going to be very key. Her parents, 30 years apart in age. Her dad was 30 years older than her mom. That was key. Remember that number 7 was only 18 years younger than me. So now we're talking 30 years difference. See you in the next video.